Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and of course it's the beginning of the month, so we are doing Patreon requests, and today's comes from Mistress Vicious, and today she's asked me to look at a band called Dead Poet Society, not to be mistaken for the film Dead Poets Society. Anyway, band Dead Poet Society, never heard of them before, I don't think. No. Anyway, never heard of them before, so obviously wanted to look up a little bit of information about them. And it says, Dead Poet Society is an American rock band formed in Boston, Massachusetts in 2013. So, relatively speaking, they're a relatively recent band. Formed in 2013 by Jack Underkoffler, vocals and guitar, Jack Collins, a couple of Jacks, Nick Taylor on bass, Will Goodroad on drums, and Dylan Branner replaced Nick Taylor on bass in 2019. The band started off as an independent group, self-producing and self-recording their songs before signing to Spinefarm Records in 2020. They released their debut album, which is just an exclamation point, in 2021. In a 2016 interview with Beyond the Stage magazine, frontman Jack Underkoffler described the band's sound as heavy indie rock and gent pop. Okay. Contrasting heavy down-tuned guitar riffs with soft pop-adjacent choruses and verses. Interesting. The band formed while the members were attending Berklee College of Music. They played their first concert 2 days after founding the band. So they needed to come up with a name. They chose Dead Poet Society, which is completely unrelated to the film Dead Poets Society. After graduation, the band moved to Los Angeles in 2016. Their music was discovered by the influential Mexican blog Pepe Problemas. Their review caught the attention of another up-and-coming rock band, Sputnik, who invited the band to open for them on their national tour of Mexico. Over the following 2 years, the band toured Mexico another 7 times, building a strong fan base. The US break came in 2019 when Andres asked them to open on his national tour. Later that same year, they opened for Bad Flower, which established their notability in the United States. So there you go. Boink. Now, the song I've been asked to look at is called Running in Circles. I have some lyrics here. They have been picked up from Genius Lyrics, and as we all know, I've had quite a few problems with Genius Lyrics in the past. They haven't always been the most reliable or accurate, but they've not been too bad most of the time. So we shall see what happens. So, yeah, gent pop. That confuses me, and I'm not sure what to expect in this case. So we'll just jump into the video and see what we've got. But before we do that, if you could take a moment to like and subscribe if you haven't already, it would really, really mean the world to me. You know, I've been doing this for close to 7 years now. I have been doing this for 7 years now. And not even 3% of people watching my videos are actually subscribed, which is a little bit disheartening. Because, you know, I like to think I do something a little bit different than most other reactors do. You know, they'll just look at a song and go, yeah, I like it, or no, I didn't. And that's normally about all you get. I like to actually react to the song. I like to talk about the song, what the song is, you know, what message is the song trying to bring across, you know, what the themes, the morals, and the story behind the piece of music. And that's why I do what I do, the way I do it. You know, I want to discuss that. I want to have a conversation about that. So, you know, if you could like and subscribe, it would really mean the world to me. It doesn't cost you anything, it takes a fraction of a second, but it does make the biggest difference to me and to the channel. But anyway, we'll jump into this track and see what we've got. So, Running in Circles by Dead Poet Society. Let's have a look.
Feel like I'm never enough. I say I don't give a fuck, so I keep my shit down low. Slowly coming undone, yeah. I run in circles. Get back, get away. But watch me try hard anyway. It's so fake, the self-hate's killing me. I know that I'm not that, and I'm sick of pretending. So sick of
But there you go. Running in Circles by Dead Poets Society. Now, they describe themselves as sort of pop gent. I can get the pop part, but not the gent part. I mean, don't get me wrong, they do have some heavy guitar in there, but it's not as heavy as what I would consider to be sort of gent. I'm really not sure what to make of that. I mean, it was well performed, don't get me wrong. You know, the actual music was very, very well performed. The vocals were very well performed. His voice actually reminds me of another band, and I cannot for the life of me put my finger on who it is, and it's actually really annoying me. Because I can't quite figure out who it is that it reminds me of. But, you know, it was quite heavy, it was quite chunky. I wouldn't quite go so far as to call it gent, but it had a certain chunkiness to it. This might not be like a prime example of their work. It might not be their heaviest or gentest piece of music. I don't know, but it's interesting. I'm not sure if it's something I would go out of my way to listen to personally. It's not to take anything away from them. It's just, I don't know. It's just not something I think I would actually go out of my way to listen to. But that being said, I wouldn't complain if it was put on. You know, if someone was playing this like in a club or whatever, you know, I wouldn't make a fuss about it. I'd just be like, okay, cool. You know. Now, the actual song itself, Running in Circles, it sounds like they're either in conflict with themselves or they're fed up of hiding behind a mask of some kind. I mean, the idea of running in circles, it's like repeating the same cycle over and over and over again. You know, they're doing the same thing over and over again. And the song opens with the lines, feels like I'm never enough. I say I don't give a fuck, so I keep my shit down low. Slowly coming undone, yeah, I run in circles. Get back, get away, watch me try hard anyway. It's all fake, the self-hate's killing me. I know that I'm not that. So it sounds like, well, it almost sounds like the whole idea of putting a fake smile on. You know, when someone's depressed, they put on a fake smile, you know, a mask to go out in public, as it were, so people can't see how miserable they are. People can't see how bad they're feeling. And these lines here, you know, I feel like I'm never enough. I say I don't give a fuck. So he feels worthless, you know. He feels put down, he feels put upon, he feels like he's not good enough, you know. He feels like he's never enough. But it says, I say I don't give a fuck. So he's feeling terrible inside, but on the outside he's going, it's all good, I don't care, you know. So I keep my shit down low. So he's keeping his emotions buried. He's hiding his true feelings from the outside world. Slowly coming undone, I run in circles. So there's something tickling in the corner of my mouth. It's pissing me off. Anyway, you know, so he's hiding his emotions, keeping it away from public view, keeping it like buried inside. But he's slowly coming undone. You know, it's driving him crazy, having to having to put on this sort of fake smile, as it were, this facade, so that, you know, when people ask him, how are you doing, he doesn't turn around and go, oh, I'm fucking miserable. He turns around and goes, I'm fine, you know, I don't give a fuck, you know, it's all good, you know. But he's slowly coming undone. He's running in circles, you know. He's repeating the same cycle over and over again, you know. He's feeling miserable. He's pretending to be happy. And the fact that no one's like acknowledging or noticing the fact that he's miserable makes him miserable, you know. So get back, get away. That could be the idea of, like, when you're in that sort of mindset of feeling miserable, you tend to push people away, possibly. Watch me try hard anyway, you know, watch me try hard to put forward this confident and happy persona, whereas, I'm actually feeling terrible inside. It even says that it's all fake. The self-hate is killing me. This false persona, this fake smile, I'm fine, how are you doing? That's all fake. That's not how he's feeling at all. He feels terrible, and he even says the self-hate is killing me. He hates himself. That whole first line, feel like I'm never enough. So he feels terrible. He feels worthless. And, it's making him feel... it makes him feel even worse, feeling that way. And then putting on this false face to, so that nobody knows how he's really feeling. It makes it feel even worse. And he goes, I know I'm not that. I'm not this person I'm pretending to be. He goes, and I'm sick of pretending, so sick of pretending. I need to run away, soon I'll be just like the others, hide my face. No one knows it's pulling me under. I feel like I'm running, oh, feels like I'm running in circles. Feels like I'm running, oh, feels like I'm running in circles. Yeah. So I'm sick of pretending. I'm so sick of pretending. I'm sick of having to put on this mask, of pretending that I'm fine, pretending that I'm happy. I'm sick of doing it. It's exhausting. And it is, because this is a topic I've covered before, like with people with depression and stuff like that. If a friend turns around to you and goes, "Hi, how are you doing?" and you turn around and go, "Well, I'm actually not feeling all that great. I've been having a very hard time. I'm miserable, this, that." They'll turn around and go, "Ho, don't bring me down. I don't want to hear this. It's depressing." And you're like, you just asked how I was feeling. Because, in fact, that person's not saying, "How are you feeling?" They're basically saying to you, "Tell me you're happy." Because they don't want to hear that you're miserable. And he's sick of pretending that he's not miserable. He's putting on this fake face so that he's accepted by the public outside, so that when people turn around and go, "Hi, how are you doing?" he turns around and goes, "I'm doing great." That's what they want and expect to hear. And he's sick of doing it. He's sick of having to put on this publicly acceptable persona when in fact he's dying inside. He is absolutely miserable. He feels like shit. He doesn't feel like he's worth anything. And he's so sick of it. It's exhausting trying to pretend to be okay when you're not. He says, "I need to run away. Soon I'll be just like the others. Hide my face." I need to get away from this. I need to go somewhere where I can be who I am. So I can work through this shit where people don't have such high expectations of me. Where people don't expect me to be this smiley, happy moron that they want me to be. I want to be myself. I need to have some sense of normalcy in my life so I can work through this shit. Because putting on this facade is making me feel worse. No one knows it's pulling me under. So no one knows how miserable he is because he's putting on this facade, pretending to be okay, because that's what everybody expects to see. That's what everybody wants to see. They don't want to see him miserable. They don't want to see him suffering. As soon as he opens up to someone saying that he's miserable, they'll probably turn around and go, "Well, just cheer up then." And that's one thing that really squeezes my nads, that does. When you're suffering with depression or, and you're feeling really, really miserable, and someone says, "Well, just cheer up." Oh my God, if only it were that fucking simple. Why didn't I think of that, you fucking knob? So, he's hiding his misery and his depression from other people because he knows that the reaction he's going to get is just going to be some absolutely useless, benign bullshit from people who have no idea what he's talking about. And he says, "It feels like I'm running in circles. I'm just repeating this same cycle over and over and over again. Putting on this fake face. Everybody's ignoring the fact that I am miserable. Nobody knows the fact that I'm miserable. And that in itself is making me miserable because no one's acknowledging how I'm feeling. They're just seeing the superficial surface that I'm putting across, that they expect and want to see. And, it's an endless cycle. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I dig a hole in the earth, I bury myself low, never speaking again. I hide beneath the surface, get back, get away. I'm fucked up and I can't see straight. Late nights, Jamesons and nicotine, I'm not that, I'm not that. So again, this sounds like depression. You know, I dig a hole in the earth and bury myself low, so I'm sort of secluding myself in a dark, lonely place, which is something that people with depression tend to do. You know, they lock themselves away in this sort of small, dark place. Or, you know, it could also be a metaphor for, like, depression, where your brain is acting like a black prison. You know, it just sort of shrouds the mind and buries you in darkness when you feel like there's no way out. But he's there saying, I dig a hole in the earth and I bury myself low. So he's sort of basically saying there, I'm imprisoning myself. I'm putting myself away in this dark corner, away from everybody else, away from all these people that expect everything of me. You know, never speaking again, I hide beneath the surface. So I just like separating myself from mankind. I'm separating myself from the world. I don't want to talk to anybody. I just want to be alone with my thoughts. It's like, get back, get away. It's like, just everybody fuck off. Just get away from me. I just want to be alone. You know, I'm fucked up and I can't see straight. So, like, I am in a very bad place. I am messed up, you know, and I don't know what to do. I don't know how to go about doing it. It's driving me nuts. Late nights, Jamesons and nicotine. So, you know, he's locked himself away, smoking and drinking whiskey. I'm not that, I'm not that. So that could be, I'm not this fake persona that everybody expects me to be. You know, that's not who I am. You know, I can't continue to pretend to be what you expect me to be. You know, that's not who I am. That it goes, I'm so sick of pretending. I need to run away. Soon I'll be just like the others. Hide my face. No one knows it's pulling me under. Feels like I'm running. Oh, feels like I'm running in circles. Feels like I'm running. Oh, feels like I'm running in circles. Feels like I'm running in circles. Yeah, feel like I'm running in circles. Yeah. I'm so sick of pretending, oh, that I'm someone and something I'm not. So I'm back where I started, falling apart. So, again, I'm sick of pretending. I'm sick of putting on this facade. I'm sick of putting on this fake smile to appease the world at large. I'm sick of pretending that I'm someone and something I'm not. So I'm sick of pretending that I'm a happy person. I'm sick of pretending that I'm this confident, happy-go-lucky, you know, one hell of a guy. And that's not who I am. It's like, so I'm back where I started, falling apart. So, you know, he wakes up at the beginning of the day, plasters on his fake smile, and goes out into the world where everybody's just like, oh, look at that happy-go-lucky chappy. There's nothing wrong with him. And throughout the day, it sort of mounts and mounts and mounts. He's like, no one actually knows or even cares at the fact that I'm struggling or suffering. So by the end of the day, by the time he gets home, he's so completely worn out and so miserable and so depressed that he's locking himself away in this dark room, filling himself up with cigarettes and alcohol. And, you know, the misery just carries on through the night until he has to do the whole thing all over again the next day. And he's sick of it, you know, and he's just falling apart, and it's getting progressively worse because as the days go by, it's just a mounting pile of misery, just stacking one on top of the other as he realizes that no one actually gives a shit about how he really is. You know, he's miserable, he is struggling, he is suffering, and no one seems to care. So long as he goes around telling people, I'm fine, they don't care. The moment he turns around to someone and goes, look, I'm really, really struggling, and they just turn around and go, whoa, don't want to know. Just tell me you're happy, that's all I want to know. And yeah, so he feels like it's an endless cycle, and he wants to get away from it. He says, I need to run away. Soon I'll be just like the others. Hide my face. No one knows it's pulling me under. I feel like I'm running in circles. Feels like I'm running. Oh, it feels like I'm running in circles. Yeah, feels like I'm running in circles. Yeah, feels like I'm running in circles. So it's a little bit of a repetitive track. Not very imaginative writing, but it gets across an important message. You know, because he's talking about mental health, a sort of crisis of identity. And this is something I've spoken about on this channel a few times before, especially when it comes to depression, it is important that you reach out to someone. If you're depressed, it's important you reach out to someone if you're struggling. But even more important is if someone comes to you and says they are struggling, if someone comes to you and says they are depressed, it's really important that you listen. You know, rather than just turning around and go, oh, just cheer up, or you shouldn't be sad. What have you got to be sad about? And one of the worst of all, there are people out there suffering worse than you. You know, don't say that shit to people. Don't do that. It's not helpful. You know, you need to sit down and listen. And I can speak to this from experience. You know, and I've spoken about my friend Stephen quite a few times, but it deserves mentioning again in this sort of situation. Stephen was a very troubled man. He had a lot of problems and he suffered from depression. You know, many, many years before I met him, his girlfriend was killed. Someone had spiked her drink and it killed her. Her parents didn't like him very much, so they refused to let him know where she was buried. And to the day he died, he never found out where she was buried. My poor friend Stephen, he was in a lot of pain. He was in a lot of, you know, he was suffering a lot. And most of the time, you know, I would sit and talk to him. You know, we would have a laugh, we'd have a few drinks, it would all be good. One day I'm heading to work, and I was late for work. And I was rushing down the street, and I saw my friend Stephen as he was coming out of his job. And I could see there was something bothering him. I could see he wasn't too happy. And I stopped and said, "Are you okay, mate?" And he turned round, fake smile, and said, "Yeah, everything's fine." So I turned to him and I said, "Look, I'm late for work. I'll speak to you later." Okay? And I ran off to get to work. Later that day, possibly the next day, he had taken his own life. Now, I could see that something was wrong with him when he came out, when I saw him. You know, I could see there was something wrong with him. But he put on that fake smile and was like, yeah, I'm fine, don't worry about it. And instead of taking the time to be like, "Look, Stephen, I know something's wrong. Let's go sit down, have a chat, you know, hash this shit out." Instead of doing that, I thought, I'm late for work, I gotta go. My friend's life was more important than my job. But at the time, I was 18 at the time, I think it was. At the time, I was like, I need to get to work. I'll speak to my friend later. And unfortunately, there was no later. I didn't get to speak to my friend ever again after that. And that is something that bothers me to this day. And, you know, it still really gets to me, is the fact that I didn't take the time to stop and talk to him. Would he have continued and taken his own life anyway? I don't know. But if I had taken the time to stop and talk to him, there is that chance that I might have managed to stop him from doing it. And that's not something you want on your conscience, I guarantee it. Because I've had to live with that for 27 years. That constant thought of, if I'd stopped and spoken to him, if I'd not been so concerned about getting to work, if I'd taken a moment to stop and talk to my friend, would it have been different? Would he have still taken his life? So rather than going up to someone and saying, "How are you doing?" and then turning around and going, "Look, I don't want to hear it," when they start telling you that they're not feeling happy, you need to sit down and talk to them. It's vital, because it could be the difference between them living and them taking their own life. It's a heavy subject, I know. But this is essentially what this song is talking about. You know, this guy is miserable. He's struggling. He's suffering. But he's putting on this facade every single day, going out being what everybody else expects him to be. But in doing that, it's making him even more miserable. And it's just making him spiral even deeper into the misery that he's trying to hide. And he's trying to hide it because things like depression and anxiety are still somehow a taboo subject to speak about. And that's something that needs to change. They are real problems, and they take hundreds, if not thousands of lives every day. And, you know, you get these people. I mean, I know that I do it. And, you know, he even mentions it in this song. You know, whilst he was struggling, whilst he was suffering, whilst he was having problems, he locks himself away in a dark room, just drinking and smoking, because he feels nobody understands him. No one cares enough to actually check on him, to make sure that he is okay. You know, all they want to see is the happy, smiling version of him. They don't want to see the sad, miserable side of him, because they don't want to deal with it. You know, it's important that if you see someone struggling, if someone comes to you and says they're struggling, it's really important that you speak to them. It's going to be difficult to hear. I'm not going to lie to you there. You know, seeing someone that you care about in such a low point in their life, someone who is struggling that much, is going to be hard. But what would probably be maybe a couple of hours of depression for you can alleviate a lifetime of misery for the person that's talking to you. And likewise, if you are suffering, if you are feeling miserable, it is essential that you reach out to people, to talk to them. You know, I have sat up for hours. I have sat up until the wee small hours of the morning talking to friends because they are struggling with mental health or whatever. Even people I barely know, I've sat and spoken to for hours. You know, when I worked in a Blockbuster video store, and this young woman came in. I'd only known her as a customer. You know, we'd spoken on occasion about films. You know, what do you think of this film? Yada yada yada. You know, we hadn't had any deep conversation. She came into the shop one day, and it was quite a quiet day, and I could see that she was really, really upset. So I asked her if she was okay. She went, no, I'm fine. And I was like, no, I can tell you're not. You don't look very happy at all. What's wrong? Talk to me. And she stood there and we talked for about 3 hours. And I managed to make her laugh. And, you know, she went off about her day. And, you know, a few days later she came back and thanked me. You know, I didn't know this woman. I knew her first name from, you know, working in the shop. But that's about the extent that I knew her. But either way, I could see that she was struggling. I could see that she was suffering, and I took the time to speak to her. And I made her feel better. You know, so this is an important thing. And the last thing you want is someone you care about spiralling to such a degree that they end up doing something to themselves, because that will forever play on your mind. And believe me, I know, I speak from experience. It will play on your mind for the rest of your life, because you will be forever wondering, is there something I could have done, or is there a different way I could have approached this, whatever. But if you know, and this is going to sound quite selfish, but if they do, you know, if you do sit down and talk to them for ages and they still go and do it anyway, you can be sat there knowing that you did your best for that person. And whilst there might not have been any way that you could have saved them, you can know in yourself that you tried to help, that you did your best for that person. You won't be forever sitting there questioning yourself, going, what if? You know, if you don't even try, you will forever be questioning that. Anyway, I'm getting carried away on this. It's something that I feel very, very passionately about, and, you know, you can probably tell because, you know, it's something I have been through myself. You know, I've lost more than my fair share of friends through depression and, you know, self-harm and that sort of thing. And it is a horrendous feeling. And it's not something I wish on anybody. Because, like I say, I have to live every day with that thought of, had I stopped and spoken to my best friend, could I have changed something? Could things have been different? And that's not a feeling I want anybody else to feel, because it is horrible. It's horrible thinking that that person that you cared so much about could still be alive had you just taken the time. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there because, yeah. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like or a subscribe if you haven't already. You know, because I've been doing this for about 7 years at this point, and not even 3% of people watching my videos are actually subscribed, which is, you know, a little bit disheartening, because, you know, I put a lot of time and effort into these things, and, you know, I like to think I do something different than most other reactors. You know, they'll look at a piece of music and go, yes, it was good, or no, it was bad, and normally that's more or less all you'll get. You know, I like to actually discuss the songs, find out what the themes, the morals, and the stories are within the piece of music. You know, what is the message they're trying to portray? And, you know, I want to have a discussion about that. What does the song mean to me? What does the song mean to you? How do you interpret it? Is it different from what I've done it? Have I got it completely wrong? If I have, please correct me politely. You know, I want to have a conversation about the song. I want to react to the song, not just listen to it and go, yeah, it's okay. You know, and that's why I do things the way I do things, you know, because not enough people take the time to dive into what a song is about. You know, and because there's this common misconception in heavy metal that it's all about murder and sacrifice and evil and anger and stuff like that, and that's quite simply not true. I mean, you look at the song we looked at today, you know, that's talking about a real world issue that really resonates with a lot of people, you know, and it's bringing across this message of how people feel in that situation, you know, just running in circles, repeating the same cycle day after day, and feeling like no one cares. And, you know, eventually they get to that point where they're like, I can't do this shit anymore. So they end up locking themselves away, hiding away, and possibly even end up hurting themselves. You know. Now, a lot of popular modern music isn't about that. It's all shallow, vapid shit, you know, whether it's some screeching harpy going on for the 900th time about an ex-boyfriend, or if it's some gangsters talking about busting caps in asses and bitches and hoes. You know, it's shallow, you know, but music like this, it's got a deep meaning to it that a lot of people can resonate with. And that's why I do what I do. You know, I want to have this conversation. I want to dispel this myth that heavy metal is all about anger, misery, murder, and, you know, that sort of thing. You know, I want to show what the songs really talk about, because a lot of the songs I've looked at have been about things like domestic violence and depression, anxiety, homelessness, homeless veterans, that sort of thing. And that's why I do what I do. So, you know, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like or a subscribe if you haven't already. It really means the world to me. It doesn't cost you anything. It takes a fraction of a second, but it does make the biggest difference to me and to the channel. Anyway, that's about all I've got for you for this video. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.